Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka your friendly neighborhood spoiler man, and in this video we're going to be breaking down some brand new Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness plot leaks. These were sent to me by the same source that dropped that sweet Spider-Man No Way Home trailer info, and by that I mean my future self travelled back in time to give me them. I've been going back and forth over these with Super Duper Scooper Daniel RPK, and we both think they're pretty legit from what we've seen behind the scenes. You should always take leaks like this with a pinch of salt, but in case they turn out to be true, full spoiler warning on this for your bitch ass. If you enjoy the video then please hit the thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with the spoiler supreme. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Okay, so the movie reportedly has a massive opening that fully cements that Wanda isn't fucking around. We catch her wandering through the forest next to the log cabin that we last saw her at, and she's attacked by Mordo. If you cast your mind back to the ending of Doctor Strange, you'll remember that he was attempting to stop sorcerers around the world. He's now set his sights on Scarlet Witch and her many Emmy nominations, but Wanda beheads him in the opening, which shuts down his plan quicker than ScarJo did to Disney's day and date streaming one. This of course reflects the opening of the first Doctor Strange movie, as that too dealt with a beheading, and it's like Buster, it rhymes. Now we make like Mordo and head off to a dimension in the multiverse, which is where we meet America Chavez, Wong, and a Strange variant. It's at this point we see that they're being chased by the Strange Supreme version from What If, who's attempting to absorb them and their powers. It's here that we learn what America's ability is, and we discover that she can actually open up portals between the multiverse and travel from dimension to dimension. The Strange and Wong variants are killed, and she grabs the former's body before travelling across the multiverse into the MCU. From here we find ourselves at Christine Palmer's wedding, who's getting married to somebody that isn't Steven, and Shuma Gorath then attacks New York, which Wong and Strange have to go stop. Gorath has been seen in several What If episodes so far, and these were apparently teasing what's to come in the future. Throughout the movie, we'll learn that Wanda actually summoned Gorath when experimenting with the Darkhold, and you better say goodbye to that goody two-shoes image of Wanda you have because, yeah, stuff gets really bad with her. Now Wong and Strange manage to rip Gorath's eye out, and together they and Chavez go to a pizza shop, and the shot is meant to resemble the ending of the Avengers. You know, the one where they're all sitting about in the shawarma restaurant, but this time it's pizza. Now we learn that Chavez has been chased through several dimensions, and that every single time she's followed by something trying to harvest her powers. Wanda starts to learn of America like Christopher Columbus, and she comes to the conclusion that she'll be able to use her in order to travel across the multiverse and get other versions of the Darkhold in order to manifest her kids into the MCU reality. Wanda attempts to track her down, and Strange takes Chavez to Kamar-Taj, where we're introduced to Rintar, who you might recognise from the comics. Wanda arrives and goes head to head with the wizards there, and she attempts to get Chavez in order to enact her plan. This leads to a batshit crazy film in which Strange, Wong and America hop from dimension to dimension, attempting to outrun Wanda as she stirs up some madness in the multiverse. We discover that Wanda cannot fully manifest into other dimensions, but that she can astral project into them, and though she's a spirit, she's still extremely powerful. Now according to these leaks, we travel into several timelines, including an Iron Legion one that was first talked about in Age of Ultron. In this, Tony will have put a literal suit of armour around the world, and it'll feature Wanda destroying several Iron Man suits as she attempts to get to America, like Christopher Columbus. I did that joke. Now, they also jump into a timeline where Strange sacrificed himself whilst fighting Thanos, and thus the Time Stone was lost, so he couldn't carry out the snap. Here they find Mordo, who is now the Sorcerer Supreme, and they end up being taken before the Illuminati, who you might know from the comics. However, unlike the comics, their members are completely different, and amongst the ranks are Monica Rambeau, who is this universe's Captain Marvel. There's also Captain Carter, who you'll probably know from What If, Balder the Brave, and Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart. X will apparently be in the big yellowy orange hover chair that he had in the cartoon, and it's going to have a lot of fan service in this scene. Now apparently they debate whether to lock Strange up, as he's messing with the multiverse by jumping from dimension to dimension, and they also mention Whisper. There's lots of back and forth, but Strange interrupts them and says that Wanda is coming. Now in this timeline we learn what happened to Wanda, and she's happy with her kids. We get a full scene where she plays with them, and this is when the main one from the MCU timeline arrives, and she possesses this quote unquote good Wanda in order to be able to fully attack people. She completely decimates most of the Illuminati, and from what I've been told, this leads to a major fight between her and Professor X. It's meant to be absolutely non-stop, and realizing that she's slowly being corrupted by the Darkhold, he attempts to heal her. Throughout the movie, Wanda is supposed to get more and more zombie-like, and we watch as her skin withers away, similar to what happened in Wandavision. If you cast your mind back to when the movie was first announced, it was being labelled as a horror film, and these elements especially are meant to be, well, very, very horrifying. Now the Professor just wants Wanda to realise what she's doing, but she kills X by snapping his neck. Strange, meanwhile, is getting the hell out of there, and he goes to get Chavez, which is when he's confronted by Mordo, and the two go head to head. After beating him, Strange and Chavez come across the Darkhold in the basement of the Sanctorum, but Wanda arrives looking like my wife in the morning. Hey, are you having that? Now from here they jump into an alternate New York, which is completely destroyed, and find that a character called Defender Strange is the protector there. Towards the end of the movie, we apparently learn that this is Strange Supreme, and he agrees to help them out, but really he just wants to absorb Wanda's powers. They bring in several sorcerers to act as defenders, but this manages to prove very little use when Wanda arrives. The wizards set up a shield, but she manages to infiltrate it by possessing the mind of a weak sorcerer, and all hell breaks loose again, with Wanda killing most of them. Now if you've read the graphic novel Age of Ultron, then you'll probably be seeing similarities between that book and these leaks. Firstly, it features a version of Wolverine and Sue Storm travelling into a different universe, and after they're captured, they end up being interrogated by members of the original Illuminati from the comics. Turns out this group is now called the Defenders, like Defender Strange, and this entire reality is decimated by Morgana Le Fay, who arrives and starts wrecking up shop much like Wanda does in this. The Darkhold is destroyed during this, and she takes Chavez to Wong and says that she'll destroy this reality if he doesn't show her where there's another version of the Darkhold. He tells her, but she absorbs Chavez's powers anyway, and travels into another reality where that version of Wanda still has her kids. She beats this version up and goes to grab the children, but they're so scared by her zombie look that they run away. Whilst all this is going on, Strange Supreme reveals the truth to the MCU one, and the two face off, but the latter loses his patience, like a bad doctor, and manages to kill the Supreme version, Now, unable to get back to the MCU timeline without Chavez, he astral projects into the corpse that America brought with her at the start of the movie. Wanda goes back and grabs Chavez before returning to the destroyed New York, and Strange astral projects there and whispers in America's ear in order to inspire her. Her powers come back, and both she and Wanda duke it out, with them travelling into a different dimension every single time that they punch each other. A similar scene happened in episode 8 of What If, and whether this leak is true or not, it's interesting that they said something like this happened before that entry dropped. It's supposed to be absolutely crazy, and it ends with Wanda seemingly dying, but we don't see her body, and she just gets lost to the multiverse. The movie ends with Wong and Strange back in the MCU timeline helping America to hone her skills, and though it seems like a happy ending, something else is afoot. In the post-credits scene, we see that Strange has been obsessing over the Darkhold, and he slowly starts to be corrupted. A third eye grows in the middle of his forehead, and from this point we then cut to black. Now those are all the details I could get, and whether they're true or not remains to be seen, but this sounds absolutely insane. Weirdly, there's no mention of Loki in the film, which is a bit strange as he was rumoured to be in it. I've also heard that Tom Cruise will be popping up as a cameo of an alternate Tony Stark. That's the wildest rumour out there, but if you remember the 90s then you'll probably recall that he was in the running at one point to play the character, so I just think that it would be absolutely hilarious. Now I love the way they've managed to pull in several elements from What If, but also how Wanda is just an out and out psychopath that's willing to destroy reality just to be with the people she loved. This is of course reflected in Strange Supreme, and it's painted them out as being very tragic characters that are definitely going to make for some great villains in the MCU. In Wandavision, I felt like we got a couple of nods towards House of M, but this sounds way more like the power level that she had in that, where she was absolutely unstoppable. Just sounds like it's going to be crazy, and I really cannot wait to see if this is in the movie or not. There's also no mention of White Vision, which is a bit weird as I would have expected him to be in it, but like I said, I've discussed this with a couple of people and they've said it's pretty close to what happens in the film. Now I'd love it if this is true, and hopefully when that trailer drops we get a bit of confirmation on it. Obviously until then I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and make sure you keep your eyes glued to the channel for news as we get it. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of the latest What If episode, which will be linked on screen right now. We've gone over the whole thing from top to bottom, and it's definitely worth checking out, so hopefully I'll see you over there right after this. If not, then thank you for sitting through this video. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.